Hello, YouTubers and fellow tankers. You have arrived at King's Court. I'm Shrine King, and today we're going to be doing a review of something that's caused a lot of controversy in the community right now. Is the IS-3 Alpha, otherwise known as the IS-3 Autoloader, otherwise nicknamed the IS-3A, which is for Inverse Autoloader. So, before I get really too much into this, typically when I go into these guides and reviews, I talk about, what are the stats and, is the tank worth it? And I'm just going to cut to the chase because this thing is just so, so stupidly apparent. It's definitely worth it. It's amazing. There's hands down, probably the most broken tank in the game in the principle of it, not necessarily the overall statistics are there to say that it's broke, but just the design is pretty broke. And like, if you don't believe me, I'm going to show you just like my first match. Now, sadly, I forgot to record the actual first match, but I did get at least the results of that first match so that I could show you just, this thing makes money hand over fist. It's just insane. And real quick here, it should be coming up. Maybe anytime, sometime. There you go. There it is. So, oh, well, that was really fast. Sorry about that. Yeah, essentially, I made 120,000 silver on the first match. I did over like 4,000 something damage in the first match. Now, for those that maybe don't really know anything about the IS-3A, you're probably asking, like, well, what makes it so broke? Like, what is it about it that makes it so overwhelmingly positive in the sense of playing it, but not necessarily the fact that it exists? And what I can tell you is, one, it pretty much has all the same statistics as the IS-3. It even has the best penetration values as the IS-3, but then instead of having the AP rounds like the IS-3, it gets APCR rounds, which means now it can be like a sniper. Those rounds are going to travel very, very fast. Now, the one thing I will point out, though, is that the reload time is slightly slower than the IS-3. I did check it. But, unlike the IS-3, the IS-3A is now an autoloader, and it's inversed. So, what this means is it takes longer to load each shell per shell that you're loading. If that isn't bad enough, or I'm sorry, if that isn't apparent right out the door why this is going to be kind of broke, it means the reload time on it is getting faster every time it shoots a shell. And what are those times? Well, it turns out that, honestly, the last round is pretty much at 12 seconds, whereas the IS-3 is reloading pretty much every 11 seconds. Not that big of a difference. You'll see here just these stupid amounts of damage. I knew, like, hey, that IS-3 had already spent, or IS-3A had already, like, unloaded its clip. And I knew, hey, if we don't deal with him soon, we're going to have trouble. So right out the door, I just rolled up, didn't even bother with the IS-6. I just kept smacking that IS-3A. And here it is, right? So I've unloaded. So the idea is, once I've unloaded the clip, I'm actually at the fastest reload time I could possibly have. So I'm sitting at that, and actually you'll see there, it says 11.39 seconds. So it's actually very comparable to the IS-3. And as one round loaded up, now I'm looking at, oh, hey, it takes, I should say 10.4. Let's see here. Let's see what happens. Reload's the next one. Okay, it's not 10.4. Okay. So then the last round is taking about 16 or 17 seconds. So essentially it goes from, like 11 something seconds or 12 seconds to about 14 seconds and then 17 seconds on the last round. Now, what does that mean? Well, just like you see here, well, I'm not really staying out in the open. I'm not trying to fight up like face to face. I'm just kind of like coming in, hitting someone really hard, and then rolling back. And then, because it's still doing 390 alpha damage with the 220 something penetration, it's just ridiculous. You'll see here, like, I didn't aim all the way in, and yeah, I am aiming at the side of him, and I ended up tracking. But you'll see, hey, well, okay, cool. I tracked him, I get assistance for it, and then I hit him and actually killed him for it. So yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. Or actually, I didn't kill him, I'm sorry, I just did damage to him. yeah, hands down, this thing is just wonderful. I don't really think there's much of a review to say, like cons or pros and cons, because honestly, the only cons that I can even say is that if you were to compare it directly to the IS-3, it's slightly slower, and that's about it. That's it, guys. That's the only con in comparison. Everything else is a pro, and that's, to me, it's kind of ridiculous. Oh, I guess maneuverability would be another one, right? So like it's haul traverse and stuff like that. So the next gist: how do you play this tank? But before I get into that, I think I'm going to get to one of the more important topics that a lot of people are probably going to start asking. How do you play against this tank? Well, if you don't have the penetration power, you definitely want to try to use high explosives, preferably into the side. Right?
Double kill.
Because of the fact that it is an autoloader that does come in as auto-loading mechanics, which means if you can high explosive it into the side, chances are you will actually knock the reload. But I will tell you this: in my time playing it, it's rare that I see my ammo get knocked, and that. All that does is make it even more apparent to me how powerful this tank is. Because, for example, my Progetto, actually almost any autoloader I have, it almost always seems to get ammo racked, and I just don't really see it happen very often. You'll see here, I'm able to bounce shots. That was actually I think that's 170 millimeter penetration from the Pantera. I couldn't do it. And you'll see right there, that's the reason why. Well, actually, I'm sorry, that was heat round. I didn't even realize I was running the heat at that time. So that's why that round actually fired a little slower. But even then, you'll see it didn't take that long. So, honestly, the idea here is if you have the big derp guns, high explosive it, right? Try to crit it as much as possible. That'll weaken it. And what I mean here is not that, oh, hey, you're going to do a bunch of damage. No, I mean, you're going to knock out, like, the loader. You're going to knock out the driver. You're going to knock out the tracks. You're going to knock out, hopefully, the ammo, right? Anything to make it perform less than what it performs currently, because in its fully ready state, it is tough. It is rough. It will knock the crap out of you. The other aspect is if you do have probably like 250, 220 millimeter penetration, like this tank actually has, it actually is still difficult to pen it even from the front. If it's giving its side to you, absolutely wonderful. Take the shots. Bear in mind, though, it is an IS-3, so it does have the particular angling on it that makes it deflectable. So you want to be a little careful. That's why you'll notice, like, when I was shooting at it and stuff like that, I don't aim at the hull. I actually aim into the tracks. Because the tracks themselves are actually easier to penetrate through than it is the actual hull of the tank because of the angling of the tank. Artillery, if actually anybody, this thing needs to be a focus, especially at the tier. If it's top tier, it needs to be your priority number one, period. There is nothing else out there right now at tier A that is the most dangerous thing on the field. There are like Progetto was pretty much a good danger, but actually the Progetto is easier to take out, which leaves a lot of opportunities for a lot of people. So what I would say is if you see an IS-3 Alpha and you have the potential to damage it, do it. Damage it. Alright. You need to aim. Lower Glacis is still obviously a weak point. The other part too on it is, well, the turret is a little different, right? So the turret is more rounded in shape than the IS-3's actual turret. So what you end up with in here is that the plus are still a nice weak point for it. It's just pretty hard to actually hit it. So if you have a really accurate gun, I would say it's really good to go with. And honestly, if you don't have any other options whatsoever, then I would say yes. Otherwise, just try to stay out of sight of it, get around it, do whatever you can to try to outperform it. Because like I said, it cannot maneuver very well. The other thing is, once you see it use all of its shells, you need to push it, right? Bear in mind, it's only, like, you want to bear in mind that it does have 12 seconds on the reload, so it means even though it did dump, it's still at full potential. But what you don't want to do is let it play the peekaboo game with you, where it's going to dump shells, which is much like you're going to see me do. and then just roll back and hide and sit there so that it gets assistance, it gets damage, and then it's just going to sit there and reload its clip so that it has the, what is it? Oh, 1,200, about 1,200 average damage potential, right? And that's just too much. That's sickening. Even the Progetto, with its crazy gun that everyone kind of said is super like OP and stuff like that, the Progetto, it has 240 average with 3 shells, so you're only looking at 720 damage in comparison to 1,200. There's 500 more damage in this tank alone when it dumps its shells. And the difference is the Progetto goes from being a very fast-firing gun when it fires only 1 shell to being one of the slowest on the field when it fires all 3 shells, because it actually takes like 17 seconds to reload. There's a significant difference in each reload when it comes to the Progetto. That's where this thing, it's just, I mean, it's almost sickening in a way, but it's honestly, if you have it, it's a wonderful time. Honestly, you will perform in it. It's great to level your crews. It definitely is going to make an impact on the battlefield. So that's why I'm saying, like, you definitely want to focus. So, how do you play it, right? If you have it. And not only that, but note, please, if what I'm giving here is information, is what you'll probably see a lot of them doing, at least the ones that know what they're doing. And that helps you also in a way counter them, because you know kind of what to expect out of them. So, like I mentioned, you'll see here, I'm not trying to push, I'm not trying to be out in the open. Even though it is a heavy, it is not some super like heavy armored tank. It is not some super mobile tank. I can't play it like a medium, where I'm just kind of like, you know, rolling in and out of stuff. Instead, it is more of a support line tank. It can be there up in the front, it can be spotting, it can, you know, like take advantage of cover by just, you know, taking shots into targets and then rolling behind cover and staying guarded while it loads up its clip. Because that's where it really shines, right? What you'll end up seeing in this tank more often than not is trying to do the trades. What do I mean by that? It means it's going to be looking for targets that are 1 or 2 people. And what it wants to do is, if it's 2 people, hopefully they don't have as strong of a gun as it does. And what it's going to do is it's going to roll out, it's probably going to let them both shoot, hopefully try to get them to bounce. And as soon as it does that, it's going to start exchanging fire. So then what you'll see is that it will pump out its whole clip as much as possible to just rack out that damage, then it'll go back into hiding so that it can then just do it over and over until it wins the area, right? Now, to that same model, right, I mentioned, okay, it's not really a frontliner. Well, one thing I will say, though, is it's really good for haul down. And it's really good at haul down at medium distances. Even long distances, I would still take it, because, especially over a lot of other tanks, because the shell velocity on the tank is really fast. That's one of the benefits of APCR, and the normalization of the shell is increased because of APCR, which means even on bad angles, stuff that would like potentially bounce off, or I'm sorry, either bounce or deflect, it still has a good potential to normalize because it's APCR. That's one of the benefits of that ammo. So what you could have is a situation where you would figure, hey, the angle shouldn't be that good, and it will still penetrate you because it was able to normalize the round. And here you'll see a prime example where the engine does not match up. So like in the IS-3A, I would have been flying. I would have already been probably all the way up there fighting with them all right now. In this, not so much, right? The engine's just not strong enough. Can it get up to top speeds? Oh yeah, absolutely. But it takes longer to do so, and if it's going uphill, it's going to suffer. So, if you're playing against an IS-3 Alpha, that's one thing to bear in mind. It does not have like superior depression, and it does not have the engine power to get itself up hills very easily. So if you can catch it on a hill fight, keep it there. Try to keep it from rolling all the way up, because if it rolls all the way up, it'll become much more mobile. But of course, don't do so, or make sure you do so where you're keeping your exposure as limited as possible so that you're not dying from trying to do so. Now, obviously as a heavy you don't have very good camo. The things that you probably can do is, if you know how to do the reverse angling, like armor deflection mechanics. So the idea is, if there is a wall, you basically line up to the edge of the wall, then you rotate your rear about 10 degrees from the wall, and then you back up. And then that is pretty good, but you have to bear in mind if they get a good shot into your upper glacis from that side. Let's say, for example, I'm backing up and someone is either centered on me or farther to the left. Let's say I was backing up from over here on this side. That actually is going to go bad. So what you'll see here is I'm actually going to do a haul down scenario. Right, so I'm seeing this rock. I see that it's got the angle. So I know that I can line up with it, kind of protect my haul. And you'll see here I'm going to poke out first to make sure I see if people are here. I see, okay, yeah, they're here. I pop a shot. Yeah, here's the scenario. I got full clip, and my teammate puts it first. Alright, well, can't do that. And I see there's a guy there. And I'm pretty sure, at least I thought I did. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just going to keep that ridge to my benefit. So technically, to all the enemies, I'm only exposing my turret. Turret, like I mentioned, is actually not a bad deal. Right? Now, I'm still trying to figure out all the modules that I want for this tank. That's why you see that I'm using Binox. I don't normally use Binox in heavy, so if that's what you're seeing, that's the reason why. So here you'll see now I'm doing the reverse tactic that I'm talking about. So I'm kind of lining up with the rock, not really exposing much of my hull, and even if they did get part of my hull, it's at an angle, so hopefully that way it deflects. That's the typical model that you would like to do, right? You don't want to, if you are stuck in a scenario where you need to face your target, what I would say is directly face your target. Be straight looking at them, center your tank in this hull, straight down on them. So when you see the hull where it's got that pike nose, you want the nose of the pike to actually point directly at your target, and even run in there. Now, the purpose of this match, so you'll see this match is not going very well with the team, but it is actually a really good example of what you can do in the IS-3 Alpha, even on a losing team. So, and that gives it away. This team will lose. Right? But the question is, I'm sitting at 0 damage with almost 3 minutes already gone in the match. That's not very good. And you'll see I'm not going charging. Here's an IS-3 Alpha, so you'll see. You'll see I'm making sure that all I'm exposing is my turret. So they took shots at it, and I bounced all of them. Even though the Super Pershing is actually firing premium. I really want to shoot the IS-3 Alpha, but sadly I wasn't going to get a good shot. I did have the one shot, but honestly that was at the turret, so it wouldn't have been a good play anyway. So that's why I took the shot into the Super Pershing to make sure that it hurt as much as I could. Now, sadly, I see the T-49. I know that the T-49 is probably going to go for artillery, right? I'm just kind of hoping he would show up and I would be able to get a shot into him. And you'll see there's the situation where the IS-3A is giving away that side, right? So and that's where you'll see the shot. Okay, see, I just missed. That's a sad deal because I know that he's going directly for my artillery, because there's my artillery. And I see, hey, my own teammate with me is not going to go for it, which I don't really blame him. It's the FB4005. Sadly, though, I didn't know that there was a standard B lined up. So you see, I'm taking shots from the standard B. I'm taking shots from the Beretta. But you also see I'm still blocking. And actually, I shouldn't really say it's blocking. I'm not really blocking. I'm deflecting. So what's happening is the angle that I was at, they were bouncing their shots off of it because it's actually less than 30 degrees. So it was like a 10-degree angle, basically, so it makes it bounce their shot. So here you'll see, sadly, the FB4000 or the 4005 actually fired and killed the T-49, which is good because we needed that to happen. But that now makes it to where he's got a 20-second reload, giving like Progettos and standard Bs and stuff like that time to really put a hurt on him. And you'll see here, same thing. And you'll notice I was able to snapshot and that round right into him. So I'm only showing my turret. I know that those guys are there. I know, yes, if I pull out, they're probably going to shoot at me. And some of them actually have the penetration to really mess me up. So here I am. I'm just doing what I can, sort like helping on this side, which sadly I can't keep it all under control. You'll see there, Progetto finds that one too. Alright, but I also see, well, there's a T-30 coming, right? And that's definitely a hurt cannon. I see this guy coming, and I see, oh, hey, there's a T-10. T-10 fired.
Double kill.
So I just took 800. Alright, well, here's where I'm saying, like, you could still do pretty darn well. So yeah, I died. The second shot from the T10 I wasn't able to bounce, but I was able to clean up by doing some kills, and I was still able to do 1600 damage with 2900 blocking. And all I did was maintain keeping my turret as the main thing exposed so that they could not really pen me very easily, right? So that's just running the numbers, folks. Now sadly you'll see that the two top tier heavies, they just stayed over here brawling, while as you can see one of them was able to turn around. We only needed one of them to hold the front right there, and if you would have turned around we probably could have knocked the majority. Like for example, they could have killed that T30. I wouldn't have actually lost 800 hit points from that. I actually probably would have killed the T10. Actually I would have killed probably all of those guys by myself if the T30 did not hit. So had I bounced the T30, it probably would have been a different match. Now given you look at the field of what they have left, they still have a lot of people with hit points. It's like the Carnivorans still got plenty of hit points. So is it worth it? Absolutely. If you got the money, you don't mind, I would say definitely try to get it. Hopefully it'll go on sale for others, because honestly at this point it's definitely an unfair advantage to have for sure. And not only that, but because of the tank, right, that means an entire platoon of the tank is going to make an entire, like, it is going to sway the match entirely. So definitely a pay to win model. I'm very sad to see that they did that, but since I did get the tank, I am happy with the tank. I just not happy for it in the sense of everyone else and the game itself. So again, as you can see, even with the loss, a defeat, right, I still got good experience and good silver out of it. Altogether, I still pulled in like 50,000 silver, right, with everything that I had to expend, which I think is going to show you here. Maybe I'll click it. Maybe. Nah, I guess not. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy this. Please like, subscribe, let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you on the next one.